box 4, St Paul's School on the far side, the 16-year-old Victor Bouquet. And the Cox, Felix Jameson, who has one of these Princess Elizabeth medals for St Edwards. He is closest to us, another 16-year-old. The Coxes are going head-to-head, powered of course by those 16 oarsmen in front of them, and the start of the semi-final, the second semi-final of the Princess Elizabeth Challenge Cup has got underway.
Yeah, and we're seeing here what was the final last year, so this year the semi-final, and it's going to be interesting. But we've got a rematch, and I think obviously St Paul's have had an incredible season and they've looked incredibly promising, so it's going to be a tough ask to top them, even though they weren't the winners from the final last year.
Yeah, and that view can be a little sort of, you know, misgiving, or you know, you kind of think St Edwards are in the lead, but I think now St Paul's are just going to move through. The launch just goes behind the crews, and you kind of have to work out through parallax which crew's in front. I think it's probably St Paul's, Grace.
Yeah, it can be a little bit deceptive, but I think St Paul's have had the advantage in this early part of the race, and you can kind of see their stern just start to push out a little bit more and a little bit more. And it's been interesting though, we've had some really good eights races this today, where the crew that has jumped out and has got about a lead hasn't always been the ones that have got to the finish line first, and that was always kind of my impression. If you can have a good start in the 8, you can tend to hold on, but I think there's been a few defying those odds today. So great start from St Paul's, but I guess we can't rule out St Edwards.
They look to be rowing really well, St Edwards. I think Johnny Singfield has put together a great squad. Obviously, the two lads who have got the red boxes, Harvey Burford and Nick Vector in the 7 and stroke seats in that crew last year. But, you know, he's got the likes of Bly Henshelwood, the 4-seat, son of Alex Henshelwood, who coached at Eton, and the German Rufus Henning in the 3-seat. He's coached them really well. They are moving fast. They've had a much better end of the season, I think. But they are up against the special crew, Grace.
I think looking at the St Paul's crew, they're very in sync. I don't know if you see many crews of this experience being able to row in such a tidy manner, and I don't think they've been beaten this season from my knowledge, and you can kind of see why when you look at them, and just the way they're moving that boat is incredibly smooth, incredibly efficient. And once you start getting results like that, your confidence builds and you actually start to believe a little bit that maybe we are unbeatable, and you kind of approach races like that, and it's a real credit to how they've approached the season. But you can also see like the way they're rowing, it definitely pays off.
Yeah, Bobby Thatcher wasn't pleased with the way they won national schools. He knew he had to do some work, and that's what's happened between that regatta at Dorney and here at Henley. And of course, so many coaches looked at that video of St Paul's, which is on YouTube, winning the PE in 2018 in a record time, 6:06. I think it was sensational. It's got over 250,000 views on YouTube, and they point to the St Paul's 8 and Bobby's coaching and say, look, this is how you row an 8, including Tony O'Connor, of course, who coached the Kiwi 8 in Tokyo. But I think few people will be looking at this video, Grace, and saying, look how well they're moving. We talked about how synced in they are around the front end, easy off the back turn. They're really keeping the bows of the boat up and travelling, aren't they?
They really are, and I also like how they're coming around their riggers. I think in an 8 you can get into the trap of staying quite direct in the boat, but if you can get that little bit where you each rotate to your own rigger, sort of favour your own side a little bit, and it just allows you to get a little bit better grip of the water. And once you've got grip, it kind of, for me anyway, everything else takes care of itself, because you can just hang off it, you just hold it through, and then you go for the next stroke. And I really like how the St Paul's crew is doing that.
I mean, you know, you can't compare times, and these are obviously close to records, but in these conditions, 3:16 to Fawley, you can see it on that thing. Fawley's kind of halfway. That's quick, that's a decent time. It's
quick because you can see the flags as well. The wind isn't favourable. The wind's not favourable for some fast rowing. It's definitely blowing them to the side, and there's going to be a rudder on, which is actually quite detrimental to your boat speed as well. So it's an incredibly impressive performance to get to there in 3:16.
So there's the St Paul's crew, they're the lead boat. Ben Atkinson, the 18-year-old, he's going to study chemistry at Oxford and hopes to get into either the ISIS or the lightweight boat. That's a nice humble approach. He hasn't said the blue boat. You can see St Paul's there. St Edwards, you know, have hung on gamely. They had a tough race. I think they raced against KCS yesterday, just 3/4 of a length, so they've got that in their legs, and that's an extra, I guess, disadvantage. St Paul's had it rather easily against the Princeton National Rowing Academy yesterday. St Edwards still hanging in there, and what is it, about a length now, Grace?
I think so, but they have been impressive in this sort of third quarter of the race. They haven't let St Paul's have it all their own way, and you can take a lot of confidence from that. It looks like they've really checked it. It's hard to tell from the angles if they're able to claw back any, but they've not let St Paul's walk away, which can be very difficult once you get out of that eyesight, because you can't see what's going on. You don't know where the other crew, but you're relying on the coxswain to relay that information. But you can see how much the coxswains are having to steer to stay in the middle, which can be very tough.
St Edwards really sprinting now. Look at the way they're going. We can see the back of Jacques Ménage, the 17-year-old, in the bow of the St Edwards crew with the cap on. If you're wondering about the two coaches, they're not following in the launch. Johnny Singfield never watches races from the launch. He listens to races at the back of the boat tent in the enclosure. Bobby Thatcher likes to go up on his bike and try and fight his way through the crowds. And then, of course, he listens to the commentary that the stewards are giving, because he can't get all the way through to the finish. But St Paul's have dominated this race. They will be delighted that they have prevailed over the holders, the winners last year who beat them, and they are coming up to the finish line looking great as they did off the start. St Edwards rowing really well too, schoolboy rowing of the highest level, but it is the St Paul's school from London who will go through to tomorrow's final. St Edwards, they've heard that buzzer, the heads will go down. Tough race for both crews.